right, let me get over to Discord here, and I think we'll be all set. Discord, there we go. General video. Okay, hopefully I'm over here, and hopefully that means other people are gathering over here as well. All right. Good morning, and welcome to the week before summer break. I keep wanting to say spring break, right? Is it next week? If it's not next week, let me know, because then I'm confused. But hopefully not confused. Um, and let's see. Trying to, whoops, that shouldn't be over there. That should be over here. I have now way too many monitors that I'm usually complaining about how many monitors I have. And yes, I am confused about it. Okay, so everybody, okay, we're streaming. And I think we're on Twitch as well. So, okay, let's get going here. All right, want to be real brief today. A couple of people, like if you've noticed over in the um, over on Discord, we were discussing the project and trying to get things done and so on. And I know a lot of people have a lot of different things going on, but I'm really hoping that we don't get behind, certainly on this particular project. The first two projects really are getting to know Unity. So it's not supposed to really be so much about, worrying about getting super creative and so on, and, creating a polished game and so on. That's really more the second two. So I'm hoping that we can kind of stay on track this week. Now, that may very well mean, I'm going to throw this out there as a possibility. I would really like to have people um, get the basic features, go through the stuff on the project. And now I'll go through some slides here. Okay, so since we are talking about Project 2, hopefully you can all see Project 2 over here. The infamous apple cherry bomber picker thingamabob, and the requirements. And it looks like a lot of requirements, but it's really, again, if you kind of just followed through the different kind of lesson tutorial exercises, you will get there. I demonstrated everything on here. Okay, the enemy moving left to right, enemy dropping apples, changing direction, randomly changing direction, right? If you want, get more elaborate, speeding up motion, speeding up, how often apples get dropped, and so on. The basic idea. And whoops, here's one thing it should say. A player has 3 baskets to catch items. This should be kept in an array. So I want to see the apples in a list, the baskets in an array. There's still some different ways to do that, but I showed you the basics here. So the player and basket movement is controlled by the mouse using the input mouse position. Optional, don't use the horizontal axis piece of things, but use the mouse. Left and right is just going to track the mouse, so that's going to demonstrate that you understand how to convert between screen space and the world space. Okay, then we're going to get into some collisions. Basic collision, player catches an item, so if a basket and an apple collide, there's going to be a score increase, and the apple that collides with the basket is going to get destroyed. If the player misses an item, basically if the apple drops lower than 6.5 or so on the screen, then all of the apples or whatever they are that were dropped, they all get destroyed, and the player loses a life, loses a basket. Okay, the game ends when all 3 baskets are lost, and there should be, and this is an older version of the slide, there should also be some sounds. Basically, when an apple or a projectile is dropped by the tree or whoever it is, that should be a sound. When they're caught in the basket, that should be a sound. Or when they splat against the ground, that should be a sound. And the idea is to basically use a couple of different things. Sometimes you're calling play specifically as a result of a collision. Sometimes you're calling, you don't even have to call play at all. You can have the apple or the mere act of instantiating of prefab is going to say play on awake, and that sound's going to just happen automatically, that sort of thing. Right? We're also going to use player preferences to save and load the high score. Okay, so we're going to talk about player preferences real quick today, and talk about this whole start scene. And initially, uh, this we covered scene management a little bit differently in the past. Okay, the same rules obviously all apply, but in other versions of the game, we said, okay, let's have an explicit version of an intro screen, a splash screen. You use it for different stages, levels, and so on. But you're going to be using your scene management to go from kind of a menu screen to choose either the adventure game or choose the apple picker or choose, and so on and so on. And that's going to launch the actual game that's part of this project. Ideally, when the game ends, you go back to either to a high score screen or could go back to the main screen of the game. Okay, so as long as you're getting kind of the basics on scene management taken care of, that's the overall goal, the long-term goal. Not going to go too deep into scene management because I think you've all been there before, but here's a little bit of a reference for you. Um, in terms of creating a scene, opening a scene, deleting a scene, saving a scene, and so on. Really straightforward. You've all done this sort of thing. Load scene by scene name. What you may not have known is that you can also load scenes according to a scene index, right? Which is a little bit sometimes a little bit tricky to figure out what is the scene index, but that's loading it by an index from the based on the number of scenes in your project. So as you add scenes to your project, you can do that sort of thing. Okay, you can also get the active scene. Um, so some additional functions that you might want to say, um, and so on. But for now, you're probably fine. Using just named scenes is more than adequate. All right. We talked a little bit about this preserving objects across scenes, about using the singleton pattern, the singleton programming pattern, so that you don't destroy. Say if you have a background audio that you want to play continuously through the screen, through the scene, it's not required on this project to have continuously playing background music. If you want to do it, you can, but it's not a requirement on here. So we've already covered singletons. So go ahead, use this as an exercise if you haven't already mastered scenes, but I think most of you have already kind of had that covered. Now, player preferences, playerPrefs. This this wasn't covered in a specific lecture so far, but I did cover it in my walkthrough of creating, the exercises for the apple tree dropping, apple dropping game. But I'll leave this in here so that you do have some notes. And remember, these lecture notes are all up on LMS, so you can refer back to these if you just want to flip through things saying, oh, how did he do that? They'll be here as well. So player preferences. Player preferences is, I'll jump back here, is all about saving simple stuff, right? If you want to save a simple integer, or you want to save a float, or you want to save a string, something like that, really just simple sorts of saving. That's what player preferences are for you. You can do things like, if you had some sort of setup where, this mouse button, this key maps to that, the high score, the player's name, that sort of thing, that can all be kept in player preferences. And the cool thing is that player preferences are persistent. Pardon the alliteration. Meaning that when the game quits, if you've saved things in player preferences, if you do the set functions, they will still be there when you do the get functions later on, right? There's a get and a set, and those actually will write it into the file to the local game directory so that they will still be there the next time around, right? So they're used to store and access simple data across play sessions. They are a quick and convenient way to serialize certain limited data. You wouldn't really use those to serialize your entire game stage or anything like that. Something larger. You're going to use, get into larger things beyond that. But they are great for using simple serialized data in sort of a dictionary key fashion. Okay, so to use player preferences, it works using a string as a key that is then bound to a particular bit of information that allows you to later retrieve it. So for example, you might have a key called high score, and you use that to save the top score as an integer, which then you might retrieve it later using this key high score again, right? So you can say get int high score, set int high score to kind of get it and set it and so on, right? You don't need to use any extra strings or any using statements. All is sort of just built in, but it does have this static class playerPrefs. So you can say playerPrefs dot and then use the thing you want to use. So there are some common methods that you're going to see. You can check to see if a key exists. You can delete an existing key, and that will remove it and its value. If you say has key and just check the key, it doesn't return the value of the key. It returns true if it exists. So you can kind of see, does it already exist? And then your three main set functions are set float, set int, set string, which will set the given key to hold the given value. Right? So if the key, the one cool thing about it, you also have this notion of default values. Um, so if the key does not already exist, it will create the key. Otherwise, the old value is overwritten. So I meant to say about the default values is really a get thing. But here, you don't have to worry about does it exist, then create it, then write to it, so on. You can just say set, and it will take care of creating it if it doesn't exist, or it will just overwrite it if it already exists. So it's pretty simple to use, right? The set piece of it. And then you have the get, which you're going to say get, ask for its name, and it will retrieve the value stored in the given key. If it cannot find the key already in use, then you have this optional second argument here. So if you said, okay, if I can't find a high score, if no high score already exists, use a value of 100 for that. Right? So this is this notion of setting up a default value. Right? So if a key does not exist, it returns nothing or a default value if one is defined as this optional second argument. So you're probably going to have some sort of default high score that you might want to use. Right? And here's an example. So this is kind of an overly explicit sample. During the start of a game, you might check, okay, is there already a key for high score? And if so, well, or if not, I should say, going into the game, you should say, okay, I'm going to save out the high score, right? So this part is overly explicit. You usually don't even need that sort of thing. But the important part is this. We say, okay, at the start of your game, you'd say high score equals playerPrefs.getInt high score. And that's going to give you whatever is saved in the current high score key, right? And then you are free to use that. So you can say, okay, here's what the high score is, and use that in your text, perhaps, something like that, right? And then at the end of the game, when gameplay is all done, or this could even be done dynamically if you wanted to. So you could say, okay, if the current score is greater than the high score, save that score as the high score, right? So this is something you can do. Now you'd also want to do something where you'd say, okay, in this case, if the current score is greater than a high score and you set it, you probably should also say high score equals current score when you're updating it here as well. So that's the one gotcha if you're not careful. Make sure to put that in there. All right. So that's the real quick lecture for today. I wanted to be quick about it because normally we do like to set aside a certain amount of lectures as sort of studio time. And in these days with all this remote learning and so on, I'm not sure exactly what studio time is versus kind of office hours and things. But since there were quite a number of people who said, yeah, we've got lots of things going on in projects and so on, I said, well, okay, we should be able to at least count on the few hours that we have as class time, and why don't I go ahead and sort of open those up as studio time to make sure that you hopefully can get at least sort of the basic version of your game up and running. So we're going to go with that. So what I may do, if there are no specific questions, and I started to do this and I was going to just record it and put it up, is basically challenge myself to see, okay, can I write an apple picker game, a reasonable one that checks all the boxes for the requirements that you could theoretically follow along with and say, okay, now I've got all the requirements, I could just follow along. So that sounds like cheating. That does sound a little bit like cheating if you just followed along and did it exactly line for line. So what does that mean? All right. If you do the exact thing and you turn in something that is just exactly as it is, I'm going to say, all right, good job, you got that turned in, but you're taking the route where you want to just say, okay, I want to, get the basics now and maybe elaborate on it a little bit later, right? So I'll accept this as, showing progress, and, if it's exactly the same as the one that I have here, looks like it's just copying, following my step, typing in the same code. You get it working, you get all the bugs, all this sort of thing. That's going to get you probably to a 85 or so if you get it all running and looks good, and the basics. Um, I would like you to hand that in this week to say, okay, you've got the basics, you've got it working. I'll open it up so that if you want to then add on and show, yes, I really know more than, I got more than the basics on this one. I want the A. I want the, to really show that I went above and beyond. I'm going to open up the deadline as far as that goes, just so this way you can get the basics in before summer break. And then if you do want to come back and add more time and add more things to it, we'll get there, and this hopefully takes some of the pressure off. But I do want everyone to kind of hand in at least the basic functioning piece, kind of the 80 to 90% chunk of stuff beforehand. And maybe some of you will just go ahead and crank out 100%. That's totally fine too. But let's get something in from everybody this week, especially to make sure that something has been submitted and pushed and put on the collab and so on, so I can kind of look at it and see where you're going. I just don't want people waiting above and beyond it, saying, okay, yeah, take advantage. If I don't have a deadline and you don't have to put it, and everybody gets an extension, then it will all trickle downhill from there. We don't want to go quite there. All right. So on that note, if there are no questions as far as, or are there any questions first as far as everybody goes? General questions. Is that confusing? Hopefully, you can either turn your mic on, encourage people to ask questions. Someone's typing. That's good. You like the idea? Okay. Yeah. Usually we've done some different versions. It's kind of a 1.0, 2.0, or a 0.9 versus 1.0 version. Um, so it's really want to get the basics covered. Projects 1 and 2 are all about, let's get the technique in there, and hey, it's still, we'll make it that it's due. Try to get all the basics in by Friday. Ask me the questions. If your code isn't working. Um, so. Okay. What was the idea? I like the idea. Um, okay. So that's what I'm going to do. I think. So the basic idea is at this point, I'm going to use this lecture today and Thursday's lecture time as open studio time, which is different from office hours in that you should be using this time. This is the reason to get a basic version of the project up and running. So you really need, there's no excuse to not have some version to hand in, because we're going to have this 3-4 hour chunk of time for you that should be adequate for at least getting the basic piece of it in. I still have additional time outside of this as well. If you want to ask questions, it's not the only time. You certainly ask me questions at any time, push projects up, and so on. Yes. And perfect. Yes. Get the basic version of the game done by the break, and then you do have the option to do upgrades later on. Okay. This is going to be posted for later reference. Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pause the stream to post this part, and then I'm going to come back. So I'm not really going to go anywhere. And then I'm going to switch my screen over to a fresh version of the project, right? And then I'm just going to kind of like just blast myself through there, creating my own version of the project until someone asks a question. And you don't have to be following along if you don't want to. If you want to be working on your project, go ahead and work on it. If you want to kind of check in to see where I got to or so on, look at my screen, that's fantastic as well. So I'm here. So this is a quote-unquote studio class. All right. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to change what happens in Twitch and the recording.